Alrighty, let's get into it. Thank you, UCLA, for having me. I haven't been to LA in 6, 7 years now. Last time I was here, I was interviewing with Snapchat down in Venice Beach. I failed a dynamic programming question, and I still think about it to this day, 7 years later. I was in Venice Beach this morning walking the thing. They used to be much smaller in 2016, so they moved out to, I think, south of LAX, but they used to be right on the beach. And yeah, that was my day today, just thinking about all the failures I've had here in LA. So that was great. But no, we're gonna have a great time. If you don't know me, I wrote the book Ace the Data Science Interview. It's the #1 bestseller on Amazon. I'm also the founder of datalemur.com, a free way to practice for SQL interviews used by over 100,000 people in the data community. What we're going to be talking about today is two things. How do we get more interviews in the first place? And then once we have that technical interview, how do we ace it? Right? A little bit more background. I went to the University of Virginia. I studied systems and information engineering, which is kind of known as operations research at other universities. I also minored in computer science and math, worked at Google, Facebook, a location analytics startup called SafeGraph. But I'm probably most proud of being Drake's #1 fan, top 0.01% on Spotify, certified lover boy. And you might be thinking, Nick, what the hell are you talking about? Right? But trust me, this is everything to do with what we're going to be talking about for the next hour. So that's me DJing in high school, and that's me DJing at a club back in SF. I think I have really good music taste. Everyone's kind of skeptical of that. What's this nerdy Indian guy from the suburbs know about music? People get kind of defensive about that. Like, what do you know about music? So I thought, what if I could somehow quantify my ability to know music, to spot trends in music? Who here plays fantasy football? Anyone? Okay. So fantasy football, I saw my friends at the University of Virginia playing fantasy football, drafting football players onto their team, and basically getting points for their ability to pick talent within the NFL. So I thought, could I do something like that for music? Could I almost gamify your ability to spot trends in upcoming artists? So just like a football player, you can draft them into your virtual team. Could I draft a rapper onto a virtual music label? I know that sounds really crazy, but I just started coding it up and it turned into Rapstock.io, the stock market for rappers. So it kind of was like a stock market where instead of longing and shorting a stock, you could long Drake or short Kanye West. So it went viral on Reddit, but there was a slight problem. As soon as people would sign up, they would make a few trades, maybe come back the next day, maybe come back a third day, but eventually they would churn out. Why are people leaving my site? And how do I get them to come back? This would eat at me, right? So this is the dilemma I was having, and that dilemma led me to doing a lot of Googling, and I figured out this thing called growth engineering, which is this combination of marketing, data science, engineering, where you almost think about growth in a very data-driven, practical way. You think about what's wrong in my user funnel, what products and features can I build to improve retention, to improve my acquisition metrics? Can I run some A/B tests? How do I know if this new feature is actually good? What metrics should we even measure? It's very data-driven. So, I was always coding, doing some math, having some interest in business, but through Rapstock, I figured out growth engineering. I implemented the best practices and I grew to 2,000 monthly active users. But more importantly, I had fallen in love with this niche. So that led me to Facebook's growth engineering team, where we ran A/B tests all day long and tried to figure out, when I was at Facebook, we were at about 2.4 billion monthly active users. But we wanted to hit 3 billion monthly active users. And at that kind of scale, you can't just ask a new user, hey, what do you want, what do you want built in Facebook, right? You got to test stuff because the people who are signing up onto Facebook back in 2017 and 18, they're in Indonesia, they're in India, they're in Pakistan. Half of them cannot read English, half of them barely can use their smartphone. Half of their smartphones are like shit tier Androids. Like tiny, like stuff we don't even have in the US market. So you can't just say, oh, let's talk to the PM and figure out what to build. It's all data driven. It's all, you set metrics, you run A/B tests. So how did I get here after graduation? Yeah, I got a little lucky that my Rapstock.io project set me up to work at Facebook. See, their growth engineering team was doing a lot of what I was doing in my dorm room at a bigger scale. So when I interviewed with them, yes, I had to ace the technical interviews. But I'd like to think I got a step ahead because with the recruiters, the hiring managers, the team leads, everyone I talked to, when they said, why do you want to work at Facebook? Instead of giving some generic answer like, oh, my grandma uses it, or some bullshit answer. Oh, I heard they pay a lot. No, I told them, listen, your team, you're the best at what you do. Using data to grow products, I'm literally already doing that. In my dorm room, I want to do it at a bigger scale. Right? And that's a winning behavioral interview. So I do think I got lucky by doing this Rapstock.io project and leading my way to Facebook. But the thing you don't realize is I told the same story to a whole bunch of other companies. What do I tell Airbnb, Uber, and Snapchat? Those three companies also have growth teams. They also do A/B testing so that you book more stays, send more snaps, book more rides. So it was an easy pitch. What did I tell Apple? I told Apple I love building for people. I love building for consumers. Who has the best consumer product in the world? iPhone. Who has the best consumer brand in the world? Apple. So why would I work somewhere else? Clearly, I'm a person who loves building for consumers. What I tell Spotify? I told Spotify, look, I was born for this. Where are you going to find a DJ who's already using data from the Spotify API in their site? We're going to find someone who's already proven their passion for music, data, and engineering. Right? Other people say, oh, yeah, I like music. Yeah, I like Drake. I literally proved it that I like all these things and I can do stuff with my passions. We're at Stripe. Back in 2016, they were worth about $3 billion, and they're growing very fast. I wanted to get them back. I hate fintech. I think it's so boring. But I didn't tell them that. What did I tell Stripe? Hey, yo, I built a stock market in my dorm room. I love the intersection of data, engineering, and financial technology. I built a stock market. Who is doing that? No one. Nobody is doing that. So Stripe, obviously, you should interview me. So with one project, this weird little dumb hip hop, fantasy, stock market, blah, 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 I'm able to weave a story for these 6 companies and a whole bunch of other companies. That's the magic of one good portfolio project. One portfolio project shows hiring managers, not tells them, shows them what you can do. Plus, you learn a lot while building it. And finally, those behavioral interviews, they're not interviews for me. Half the time, they'd be like, oh, yo, I love hip hop too. Who are you listening to right now? Suddenly, it doesn't even feel like we're interviewing. It sounds like we're just nerding out about hip hop. Maybe they're not into hip hop. Then we're nerding out about fantasy football. Maybe they're into fintech. Maybe they're into growth. Whatever it is, with one meaty project, my behavioral interviews never were like, hello, where do you see yourself in 5 years? They were just like, oh man, can I sign up for the thing you build? Oh, how's this work? Oh, that's super cool. Oh, blah, 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 blah. That is the magic moment in a behavioral interview when it stops being an interview and it starts just being a conversation between two peers, right? That's the magic of building one good portfolio project. Now, your project doesn't have to be crazy complicated. A coaching client of mine, she studied public health. She didn't know Python, machine learning, deep learning. She didn't know any of that. She knew Tableau, She knew a little bit of SQL, she knew Excel. And she wanted to transition into data analytics. So she took data from Kaggle, from the grocery delivery app, Instacart, and visualized data. So this data is already here on Kaggle for free for any of us to analyze. She took it and put it into interactive Tableau dashboard, looked at what are the most popular products about, what's more popular, Coke versus Pepsi. So when in her interview, they asked her, hey, for this data analyst role, we're looking for someone with database skills. How are your data visualization skills? 9 out of 10 candidates would yes, oh, I'm very passionate about graphical design. No, she just said, hey, can I pull up my dashboard real quick? I made something in Tableau because I'm a big foodie and I use Instacart. I saw this. Can I pull that up real quick? She drops the link. She starts screen sharing. Again, instead of being some dumb interview about, oh, tell me about tabular data, visualization. No, she's just showing the Tableau dashboard. Right? And they're nerding out, and it's a public link. So the other person can on the other end of the interview, they're playing along with it too. You don't have to do it with this kind of data. You do it with whatever you're interested in. If you're a big Lakers fan, there's so much data out there ready for you to visualize. This is data about Kobe, RIP, his last game. Any niche, hip hop, music, cars, anything, you will find data there. It's literally, you just have to search Call of Duty data set, Sephora data set, makeup data set, whatever you're interested in, it's there, ready for you to visualize and analyze and build. But 9 out of 10 people won't do it. Who's trying to do machine learning type stuff? Forget this boring data analyst type stuff. Who's trying to do ML? Who here likes LLMs? Trying to do some of that, right? Right, that's all the rage. I get it. If I was an undergrad, I would be trying to do that too. Look at this project made by Kirtana. She fine-tuned Red Pajama LLM, which is kind of like a twist on the Facebook Llama LLM. She took 200,000 dad jokes from Reddit. So she made her own model to generate dad jokes. And then she ran that data through 11 labs, an API that just takes someone's voice. So in this case, it was trained on Joe Biden's voice. So here is the pun it came up with. Where does a giraffe go to the bathroom? Down the toilet. You guys don't get it? I don't get it either. That joke is ass. That's terrible. But it doesn't matter. She's ahead of 99.9% of people. We're all, I like LLMs, I like generative AI, I use ChatGPT every day. Okay, great. So does everyone else. Have you built your own LLM? Have you tried to fine-tune an LLM? Have you put it to production? It doesn't matter if the output is terrible. The fact that she's doing LoRa, the fact that she's scraping data, the fact that she made it public, the fact that it's a link that you and I can go look up and hit me, and it generates a new joke. It doesn't matter if the jokes are terrible. She is ahead of 99% of people who say, oh yeah, I heard generative AI is the future, I'm trying to break in. Everyone tells me. No one builds. This is what I mean by one project. The joke can be terrible, the design can be bad, it doesn't matter. This is still easily 99 percentile. That's what it takes. Now, how do people even find out about the projects you built though? Right? I told you all about this. We're building these projects. How do recruiters, how do hiring managers even find out about your project? You can tell them at career fairs, you can tell them when you have the interview. But what I like to do is send a cold email. That's how I got interviews at Airbnb and Snapchat without having any alumni or connections or anything like that back in 2016. You send a crisp, concise email saying, here's who I am, here's what I built, here's why I'm interested in your company. Can we start the interview process, or can I learn more, or whatever you want your CTA call to action to be. You can start opening up conversations with hiring managers and recruiters. After today's talk, we'll send an email with the slides, including an article I wrote about cold emails that's free. It's on my blog. There's a whole chapter dedicated to it in the book, chapter 3, that details more about the nuances. But I'm just trying to show you at a high level, you don't have to wait for people to find out about you. If you built something cool, you can bring that to hiring managers and recruiters. Here's an example of that. This is the real cold email I sent back in 2018 that got me my job at SafeGraph. So SafeGraph is a geospatial analytics startup, and they were hiring for a chief of staff, which is this kind of hybrid role, a little bit of business, product, data, just get shit done, right? It's an 18% startup. And the founder, Warren Hoffman, I didn't know him, but I follow him on Twitter because he's one of those gurus, just posting on all about startups and entrepreneurship and whatnot. So I saw this position open. I was like, you know what? Let me just shoot my shot. The job application was on AngelList, but I knew amongst McKinsey consultants and VCs and private equity folks, there's no way that they're going to hire me. So I shot the guy an email trying to pitch myself. I didn't know him. This is what I mean by cold email. I guessed his email address. He's the CEO, and the company's SafeGraph. So his email was either Warren at SafeGraph or Warren.Hoffman. I CC'd both. I didn't know which one it was. He's the founder. It's probably Warren. I'm Nick at DataRes.com, right? Like, it's a good guess. Worst case, it bounces, right? I don't care. I tried to relate to him personally. He went to Berkeley. Boo, no. He went to Berkeley. He studied industrial engineering / operations research, which is a lot like what I studied. So I tried to tell him, look, I got the business side, I got the data side, I got the engineering side, I got the hustle. I can do good work for you. So he responded the next day. This is Saturday night at 2:30 a.m. He responds to me Sunday morning. Later that week, I'm interviewing with him. A week later, I'm at on-site interviews. A week later, I'm at offer. A week later, I put in my 2 weeks notice. I have a 1 week gap that I'm working at SafeGraph, having left Facebook. It took about 6 weeks for me sending this cold email to a guy I did not know to go quit my job and go work for him in this kind of weird hybrid role. Actually, fun fact, I didn't get the chief of staff role, but they just kind of made up a role for me, like just do random stuff around data and product and whatever, like just do stuff. So I was like, all right, cool. Not every cold email is going to work. Like, I don't want to mislead you guys. It's a numbers game. But the thing is, there's so many people you can talk to, so many people can cold email, that even if 1 in 20 gets back to you, responds back to you, gives you a behavioral interview, or says, hey, you know what, love the hustle, but we're not hiring. Even if 1 in 20 work out, that's still so much better than on LinkedIn and Indeed, where it feels like you apply against 200, 300 other people, and your resume goes into the abyss, right? That's the magic of cold email. Now, UCLA, you have so many smart alums at some really great companies. Companies like Google and Meta and DataRes at UCLA and Data Science Union at UCLA. And, and this is, by the way, searching for data science directors. So there's some very high up 8 directors at DataRes. Wow. More alumni than at Microsoft. Damn. All right. No, I know, I'm playing. But for real, you search data science director on LinkedIn, you go to UCLA, you hit the alumni tab, right? And you put in that title. You say data science director, VP machine learning, whatever you want. And you'll find people that you can go reach out to and say, hey, go Bruins. I'm a young student. Wait, why are people laughing? Is that not something people say? It is? Okay. All right, I didn't, okay. Okay, cool. I was like, okay. I did my research. Say, hey, go Bruins. Like, I studied CS. I'm trying to do data science. I built this. I see you, right? Hey, I study accounting and data science. You're a director and also alumni at Ernst & Young. I love to talk more, blah, blah, blah. hey, Jyotika, I love NLP. Fun fact, I have your book. I would buy her book if I don't know where she works, but if it was a good enough company, I'll buy a book, take a photo. Because if someone took a photo of this book with, right, and say, hey, love, and by the way, people do that. Hey, quick question. I use Data Lemur and I have your book. Love it. Quick question. Yeah, I'm not charging them my one-on-one coaching rate. I'm like, oh, hey, great to hear from you. Yeah, here's the help. Or, yeah, I looked at your resume. Otherwise, if you just say, hey, can you look at my resume? Like, yeah, sure, I can do one-on-one coaching. Here's my rate. Right? So I'm trying to say these are like fellow UCLA people who were students not that long ago in your shoes, who would be happy to talk to you if you wrote them a good, compelling message that showed them who you are, what you've built, and why you're relevant to them and their company. Let's talk about the interview process now. Right? So let's say this, you've done your project, you sent cold emails, you got your interview. These data interviews, they cover a lot of topics. And I think sometimes people get scared into this thought, like, it's because it covers so many topics. Like, how are you even going to prepare? Software folks, oh, it's just data structure and algorithms. They keep asking the same coding interview questions over and over again. Two sum, reversal linked list. Data folks, you might be asking coding questions too. You might be asked anything under the sun underneath statistics and probability and business sense and product sense and open-ended case studies and ML. So it feels like a lot of topics. But the cool thing is the interview keeps asking similar questions over and over again. The patterns keep repeating, and it might feel like an intractable problem. But that's literally why Kevin and I wrote the book, because we were kind of sick of feeling that way too. We did a lot of research and we figured out, shit, there's some really common questions, common patterns, common things that people keep going back to. And if you do maybe 50, 60% of the most common stuff, you can nail 90, 95% of the interviews. Right? Power law sort of deal. 80-20, Pareto, whatever you want to call it. So that's what the book is aimed to do. 9 of you will be lucky to go see that. And you can always check it out on Amazon too. Here's a common pattern around probability statistics and ML questions. It's explain this technical concept like I'm 5, or explain it as if I'm non-technical. Why? Because data folks, we have an interdisciplinary role. We're working with business folks and PMs and software engineers and ML engineers. We got to be able to explain things in a clear, concise way. So to practice this type of question, I love the subreddit Explain Like I'm 5, where they break down technical concepts into simple language using metaphors and analogies to make it a lot more understandable. Great place to practice and a great place to get good at communicating. Another type of question that you're going to be frequently asked about is your past projects. For software interviews, they'll ask you about your past project, but we both know it's really the coding part that's make or break. In data roles, because of how big our field is, I don't even need to grill you on what I care about. If you claim to have built a project that uses logistic regression, I don't need to ask you about this or that. I'll ask you 10 questions about linear regression. Hey, you built this model. How did you make sure it didn't overfit? What metrics do you look at? What's the difference between linear and logistic regression? Right? Because if you claim you built a logistic regression model, you're not even sure what's the difference between linear and logistic regression, right? That's such a big tell. So I don't need you to be an expert on every method underneath data science, every PCA and SVM. No. If you did a project on linear or logistic regression, you should be able to tell me about it. So how do you not get caught on these project deep dives? STAR, y'all probably know it from behavioral interviews, where explain a answer in a clear situation, task, action, result. I think STAR isn't just for behavioral interviews. It's a formula that can help you on these project deep dives. Before I interview, what I like to do is on one axis, put STAR. And on the other axes, put the most key projects, research, internships, whatever. Put that on the other axis. And then try to distill what you did into one clear sentence with a situation, task, action, result. Your 3-month internship, I want to see that in 4 sentences. Your year-long undergraduate thesis, I want to see that in 4 sentences. Right? By forcing you to explain what you did in 1 sentence, I'm forcing you to be concise. And that conciseness, you do this before you interview for 30 minutes. Just, catalog a few of the main things you did. When it comes to the interview, you're going to sound so concise, so eloquent. Because when I do these interviews, people ramble on and on and on, and they start telling about the situation, the past, blah, blah, blah. I built this and I built that and I did this and I did that. And then they forget to mention the result, which is the thing I care about, right? We're not doing this for fun, we're doing this to get results. So to train yourself to not ramble on, to train yourself to be concise and eloquent, to outspeak the masters and PhD students, to compete as an undergrad. This is one of the places where you don't need to know the PhD in math to just crush this. It's just 30 minutes of work before you interview. Here's some other common topics that you'll see in the probability statistics and ML side. Here's an example of a few of them. I want to talk to you about the D. Shaw one. D. Shaw is a hedge fund out in New York. This is where Bezos worked in '97 before he quit to found Amazon. They pay insanely well. They're very competitive. And they actually asked this question to lots of different roles, not just their data scientists, but their portfolio managers, their data analysts, their quants. And I actually want us to try to solve it today. Okay. So let's say I flipped a coin 1,000 times and it came up heads 550 times. Do you think the coin is biased? Yes or no? So I want you to anonymously vote on this poll. Just scan the QR code. We're going to do this 2 or 3 more times. So definitely bring out your phone because we're going to do a few more of these. Scan your code. Just tell me, do you think the coin's biased? Yes or no? And I want to see about at least 60 votes or I can't move forward. That's not a joke. And we'll do a few of these, so definitely scan it, and because we'll do a few more of them. Cool. So I love this question. I love this question for a few reasons. Actually, it doesn't matter whether you said no or yes. What is actually on trial is your thought process. How did you get to yes or no? Okay. I like this question because you can get partial credit, right? In explaining your thought process, even if you don't get the correct answer or you get halfway or you're not sure which way to go, you're allowed to mention keywords, formulas, thoughts that lead you to the answer. Because this is not just like a vibe check, gut check, like, oh, tell me yes or no, the end, right? I love this question. And this is a question in the book as well, so you can check that out. This is question 15 in chapter 6. See, in a real interview, even if we don't know the answer, you know what I could say? I think the expected value is 500 heads, right? Even a middle schooler could tell you that. Oh, you flip a coin 1,000 times. I expect 500 heads. A middle schooler could probably tell you, you know what? You're not guaranteed 500 heads though, right? There's some variability. There's some chance, right? But we're data people. So we can't just leave it at that. Maybe you could use the word Bernoulli random variable. Maybe you could use the word expected value and say, hey, there's variance. You know what? There's a formula for 1,000 trials where the probability of success is 0.5. There's a formula to compute the expected value and the standard deviation. We could maybe come up with a z-score. We could see how rare of an event is this. In an interview, even if you don't remember the formula, maybe you ask for the formula and they let you Google it. Maybe the interviewer tells you the formula. Maybe that interviewer just tells you, oh yeah, standard deviation 16. Right? Because again, it's not about memorizing it. You can get partial credit. Your interview might help you. The next thing is to say, oh, you know what? This is 3 standard deviations away from the mean. I think that's kind of a rare event. That's pretty rare. That's pretty out there. You know what? Just given this one piece of information, I think the coin might be biased. Right? So it didn't matter whether y'all said, it didn't matter that 73% of us said no, but probably the answer is yes. It didn't matter that. It actually just mattered how did you get to that place, right? Or did you just say, it's probably not biased, shit happens, whatever. SQL. SQL interviews, they get slept on a little bit. Everyone's focused on data structures and algorithms, Python for a lot of your coursework. If not Python, then R. SQL is just kind of slept on. But in the real world, SQL is everywhere, especially for data analytics roles and then product data science roles. So I'm curious though, how well do you guys know SQL? I want you guys to vote on this because that will actually affect the next 4 slides. If y'all don't know SQL, then I'll do something different. If you guys know some SQL, then, so just vote on it so I can calibrate the next 4 slides. I want to see 80 votes. The first one had 80 votes. I want to see at least 80 votes here. Okay, great. So most of y'all are rusty. A third of y'all don't know it. And then maybe a quarter, 25%, are good, okay, or pretty good. Okay. Some companies let you pick, oh, you know what? You don't know SQL, that's okay. But there are enough companies where the first thing they do is give you a coding screen and Codility, CodeSigma, CoderPad, Hacker, and they let you do it in SQL. And if you're used to doing Python, machine learning, and pandas and all that, that's great. Your damn assessment is in SQL, right? So definitely try to work on SQL. If you're trying to do ML stuff, it's okay not to do it. But if you're just trying to do data analytics, data science, which is actually where by quantity most of the jobs are, right? Because there's very few ML OpenAI jobs and a far more SQL, product analytics, product data science roles out there, right? Go learn SQL. So Data Lemur has a whole bunch of SQL interview questions for free. I want to work through a real one asked by Twitter for a data science position, but a data analyst or data engineer interview, they would have to do it too. If you have your laptop open, why don't you pull up this question? If you want to do it on your phone, you can do it too. It's probably best on laptop. So navigate away from Reddit and probably open up this link. And if you don't have your laptop or whatever, you can follow along here. But I want to give you guys a minute to go do this. You can also just Google it, Data Lemur histogram tweets or Data Lemur Twitter, and you'll find it. You can go on the homepage, you'll find it. It's all free. You don't need to log in. You don't need to sign up to participate in this question. You don't have to sign up or do anything to be able to run code on Data Lemur. So yeah, pull up the link. If you don't want to pull up the link, you're lazy, I'll read you out the question, right? So assume you're given a table of tweets. Write a query to obtain a histogram of tweets posted per user in 2022. Output the count per user in a bucket and then number of Twitter users who fall into that bucket. Okay, what the hell does that mean? Listen, I'm given this tweets data. This user, 111, they tweeted twice in the year 2022. We're going to ignore the first tweet. That's 2021. I only care about 2022. So you know what? They tweeted twice. I'm going to say there was one user who tweeted twice. And then there were 2 users. They only tweeted once in the year, right? So because of that, I'll say, you know what? There are 2 people who tweeted once. So given this tweet's input, write a SQL query to get to that output. I'll give you guys 30 seconds to try it out on the site, 30 seconds to think about it in your head, whatever you want to do. But just think, given this input, and you know what, if you don't know SQL, how would you do this in Pandas or in R? Or Excel. Honestly, if you know how to do this in Excel, tell me how you do it in Excel. Think about that. It's pretty common workflow, right? All right. It's okay if you don't have the full solution or anything. In a real interview, I would expect you to do this in like 5 minutes. But at least hopefully you guys can think about it for a second. Here's the solution. Just for the sake of time, I'm not going to show you exactly how the solution works. I just want to call out a few things. For those of you, the 25% of you who know SQL, right? You know who you are when you voted. The 25% of us who say they know SQL. Look at this SQL solution. It's 13 lines of code, sorry, 12. There's only one table. There's not a join. There's no window function. There's no historic functions here. It's just count and group by. It's not too complicated. This question is on DataLemur. DataLemur has 100,000 users. I think like 40,000 users have attempted this problem. 88% of people get this wrong in the first try. Not because there's a trick. It's just that there's a big difference between I know SQL, oh, I learned SQL, oh, I know that SQL you select, and then you do where. There's a big difference between knowing that, kind of at a rusty level, and then in an interview, in 5 minutes, in 10 minutes, writing this code and not making mistakes, right? So I put this question here to highlight. They're not trying to mess you up. They're not trying to trick you. They know you're undergrads. But if you know SQL, if it's listed, how many of y'all have SQL on your resume? Who cares? Okay. So if you know SQL, and I give you this kind of question, I hope you could solve it. If you can't, this is a sign to practice SQL interview questions, right? Because they're not trying to trick you, but still, most people get these wrong. On DataLemur, there's like hints for every question. There's a free SQL tutorial if you don't know SQL, and we work you through real interview questions. So give it a try. I'll send a link to this after the talk. SQL tutorial is free. These questions are free. Check it out. Oh yeah, let's just reflect on that. I'm hopefully you rusty folks can kind of brush your way up to being able to solve that question. And if you said you're pretty good, you should be able to do that. And if you're okay-ish, I'd hope after an hour of review, you could maybe get to somewhere at that level. Now, the last big round, there's coding rounds too, not just in SQL and Python. That's been talked about 100 other places. So I'm going to skip that part just in the interest of time. I'm going to talk to you about the open-ended case study. Business analysts, data scientists, data analysts, PMs, like many of these roles have some kind of open-ended question. And people, again, think, yo, it's open-ended. How the hell am I going to prepare for this? So I won't do anything. I'm here to tell you there's actually a strategy to do these. It's covered in chapters 10 and 11 about product sense and open-ended case studies. But roughly the high-level strategy in the quick 1-minute version is whatever answers you give, make sure they're tailored to the business and product at hand. Don't give generic ass answers. And lastly, whenever you give an answer, mention trade-offs. This is an open-ended question. There's no right answer. Every answer is flawed. Mention your flaws. Mention the trade-offs you use to get to that solution. So this seems great at a high level. Let's actually put it to practice. I'm actually going to have you guys do this with the Slido poll. So definitely pay attention because in about a minute, I'm going to put it on y'all and try to answer this question. So imagine you worked at Facebook, and this is a real question in the book. This is a real question asked by Facebook for a data science role, but also PMs and data analysts, they can expect to get a role like this too. And actually data engineers, they started doing that at Facebook as well. Asking a question like this is one of the rounds. Imagine you worked at Facebook on Facebook dating. What metrics would you use to define the success of the product? And mind you, you're given these 2 details. This is a beta test in Brazil. We only have 3 months of data from Brazil. And we want to just figure out like, yo, like, is this working? Is this good? Right? So I'm curious, what metrics would you look at to figure out, is this a good product or not? I want to see about 30, 40 answers here. There's multiple right answers. There's multiple wrong answers. There's no one right answer because everything has trade-offs. So I want to see a stream of answers come in. And we'll discuss them. But I want to first give you all a minute. Zuck does these things called quarterly reviews. And he'll go team by team and figure out like, yo, how are things going? And in that meeting, I never was in one of them, but if you were a senior data scientist, senior PM, tech lead, you would be invited into it. So even if you're 7, 8 levels away from Zuck, you would come in once a quarter and talk to him for about 20 minutes about what your team's up to. About a year ago, they did some, actually, no, just like 6 months ago, they did massive layoffs. The guy was spending $10 billion a year on the metaverse, and nothing's been handled. They had to freaking lay off so many people. So when he's reviewing your product, what are you showing him? So that he can make the decision, hey, should we reorg you? Should we lay you off? Or, hey, this product's doing pretty good. And you know what? We should launch it to the rest of the world. See, Zuck's not going to write that SQL query. Zuck is not going to be like, oh, yes, for the Facebook dating product, this is what I look for. Right? He doesn't know what's happening. He wants you to position it and show him, hey, this quarter we worked on this. Here's the main metric. Here's how we did. Based on this, I think we should double our budget and spread to the rest of South America. So what SQL query would you write? What metric would you look at to show Mr. Zuckerberg what your team's been up to and like whether the product is successful? That's what I mean by what metrics would you use to find the success of Facebook dating. It's not some like made up scenario. This is like a real product, and this is what you have to do once a quarter. And if you start looking at some wrong answers, it's going to lead off. Let's look at some of these answers. Okay. Daily active user, sure. You know, how much time is spent on it, sure. So some retention ones, which is similar to user turnover. Success fail rate. I mean, that's what we're asking you. What is success? What is fail? Like, is there a column called success fail that I can query? Right? What is success fail rate? What does that mean? People meeting in person. Okay, we'll talk about that. Reviews, maybe. Okay. Attrition rate, which is kind of like turnover or retention. Number of ads seen. Zuck, zuck, zuck. Okay. Monthly active users. Tinder is better. Okay, let's talk about some of these. Okay, sure. Number of users using it. That's fine. I saw a few about retention, turnover. Remember in the start of the talk, I was working on Lapstock and trying to prevent user churn, trying to improve user retention. Then at Facebook on the growth engineering team, I literally worked on the new user onboarding team, which was all about preventing new users from churning, giving them a great experience the first 2 weeks so that they don't churn back. Churn is very bad. Or is it? I met my girlfriend on Hinge 2.5 years ago. I don't think she'd be happy if I was still using Hinge. I've churned from Hinge. Hinge's motto is designed to be deleted. They advertise that. Hey, we're designed to be deleted. We're designed for you to meet your loved one. Every other business, you should say, yeah, churn. We want to prevent churn. Maybe churn isn't the worst thing here. In a real interview, this is how we go back and forth. This is what I mean by tailoring your answer. You don't want churn, but churn is something a little bit more interesting on a dating app, right? Maybe there's 2 types of churn. One churn, I got no matches, this app sucks, like nothing happened. The other kind of churn is like, oh yeah, it worked a little too well, I found the love of my life, I don't need this, yeah. You want to make that distinction in the interview. You can't just blurt out churn. Successful dates off the app. How am I going to measure it? Is there a table? Oh, so-and-so met up. Oh, so-and-so had a great date. There was real chemistry. Can I query that? that a table I have access to? Right? That's what I mean by these open-ended interviews. This is what the focus of chapter 10 and 11 is. How do we come up with good metrics? Surveys. People are notoriously untruthful on surveys about their dating preferences. But Facebook has so much data. Do we need to survey people? Or can we just look at them like, yo, you use this for like 30 minutes a day. You have 50 matches. You talk to 12 of them. You're still talking to 12 of them 2 weeks later. Doesn't matter if you think this app is ass or not. Like, clearly something's happening to you, right? So yeah, maybe in small scale for enterprise SaaS, I'm selling $100,000 a year product. Yeah, maybe I need to do an NPS score. Maybe I need to do user surveys. Maybe I only have 50 customers and I need to talk to them. But at Facebook scale, you know, reviews, people review it really badly when the app crashes, but they still use it all the time. Like reviews are kind of, you know, not super ideal. People meeting in person, again, I don't know if I can see that. Conversations that include a phone number. Who put that one in? Cool. How did you think of that?
Takes it off of the data. It continues, we can't measure it afterwards.
Yeah, that's one of the correct answers. You'll see this on Tinder and Hinge. They'll ask you, hey, like they look for a phone number exchange because they say, you know what, if two people met and they took the convo off app, like we did our work. We don't know if the date went well, but we made two people kind of connect who wouldn't have connected otherwise. You know what? I can't measure if it was a successful date or not, but we've done our work. Plus, figuring out if a phone number was exchanged is a simple regex. It's a simple pattern, 9 digits, very easy to detect. Figuring out if your date went well or not, you know, even people can't figure that out, right? You know, ever been ghosted like that? You don't have a great date, just don't hear back. You know, not that that's ever happened, but yeah. Oh, ad revenue. Remember when I told you that Suck spent $10 billion on the metaverse? $10 billion. How much money do you think our beta test makes in Brazil for dating? Do you think that we really are trying to look at monetization? Or do you think we're looking for product market fit? And if we have it, if this is a good experience, we'll put an ad somewhere else or we'll figure it out. Very likely, the MVP that you ship has nothing to do with monetization. Sometimes I see people put, oh, subscription revenue. Who said this was a subscription app? When in Facebook we use subscription? Everything's ad-based. Right? So this is what I mean by tailoring your answer to the company business at hand. Tailoring it to the case. Every other business wants to make money. But when we only have 3 months of data and we're looking for product market fit, I don't care if I made $2 million in ads. Right? My whole team cost me $10, $20 million. Right? So whether people saw ads, I know I can figure that out later. I'm just trying to see if it was a good product. So how do we do better on these open-ended exercises? My secret is to cheat. So how do we cheat? Listen, Facebook asks questions about Facebook, Uber asks questions about Uber, Airbnb asks you questions about Airbnb. So imagine you were at Uber and they asked you, how would you build Uber's search pricing algorithm? And this is a real question asked to data scientists, ML engineers, and data engineers. And a variant is asked to PMs and analysts about kind of metrics around search pricing. But it's a similar idea. If you, before you interviewed, used both the Rider and Driver app, you read the quarterly reports, you read the engineering blog, the answers are out there, right? Look at that last line where it says ETA spiked to 8 minutes. And the share of trip requests fulfilled rose to 25%. In a real interview, I'm not sure I ever thought of that, but if I'd done my homework, I would have been able to crush this. And the thing is, you might think like, yo, Uber, what can they ask me? Well, pretty much everything at Uber boils down to matching riders and drivers and balancing that out. One of the ways to balance that is through search pricing. So you might think, Nick, you showed me the answer because you got to pick the question. And I'm trying to tell you, you do a little bit of research. Uber's not going to ask you something random about like premium game, right? They're going to ask you about something about their marketplace. And you know what's really crazy? If you do your homework a few times, you're going to not just crush the Uber interview, when you interview at DoorDash and Instacart and Lyft, their businesses look very similar to Uber. Isn't dating kind of like a marketplace too? You're trying to match people. There's supply, demand, men, women. You're trying to match people. If you do enough research about how Uber is working out, how they're managing their marketplace, that will actually help you interview on Facebook's. If you're interviewing about Facebook Marketplace or you're being asked about Facebook dating, look at that metric. ETA spiked to 8 minutes. Couldn't an answer be, oh, the success of Facebook dating is 90% of users got their first match within 2 days. The ETA for a match is 2 days. Other apps, you sign up, you get no matches. This one, we give everyone a match in the first 2 days. That's the ETA, right? What is this share of trip requests unfulfilled? Oh, I signed up on Tinder, I got no matches, this app sucks. My date request was unfulfilled. I wanted dates, I signed up to the app, I didn't get that. That is a very similar mechanism to I signed up for Uber, the shit is surging, I want a ride on New Year's Eve, and yet my trip request went unfulfilled. Do you see that parallel? That if you do your homework enough times, the business models start to blend together and your product and business skills go next level. This is covered in chapters 10 and 11. This is the type of stuff I don't think they're telling you in school, but this is the type of thing that comes up in almost every interview in some form or another. Whether it's a take-home project or open-ended, or with the hiring manager or with the PM, they will test you on this kind of stuff. Because data is not about building models. Data is not about just grinding out SQL or Python coding questions. It's about thinking through things like this. Yeah? That concludes the talk. Feel free to hit me up on LinkedIn. I have about 150,000 followers and I post every day there. So feel free to connect there. And I'll also send a link. I have like a free crash course where I talk about data interviews for 9 days. And I just send you snippets from the book. So you can use that bit.ly and we'll send the slides out too. This is the Q&A, but I think some people accidentally put their dating answers here. Unless that's the questions for me. Number of people who got laid. Huh. Is that a body count type thing? I see those videos, like they go to college campuses. You know what I'm talking about? On YouTube? Okay, cool. So anyways, thank you all for coming. If you have questions, put them here and I'll answer them. I'll hang out. I'll be here for the next 10, 15 minutes. Do the raffle. Yeah. If you win the raffle, okay, yeah. How about we do a few minutes of Q&A? If you have to leave, leave. Let me do a few minutes of Q&A while they figure out the raffle. Yeah. And once they figure out the raffle winners, or you figured it out?
No.
Okay, yeah, go figure out the raffle. Yeah.
Again, the raffle link can be accessed here bit.ly/ace_ds_raffle. So we'll see fun now for a minute, and you want to essentially people. To do it, we're doing the raffle right now.
Okay. Yeah. Most iconic moment as a DJ. 2 moments, actually. I'll relate it to data. When I was in high school, I made a remix of a song, Glad You Came by The Wanted. Does that ring a bell? And I got a lot of comments, love from Ibiza, love from Mykonos, love from Ibiza. what the hell is Ibiza? What is Mykonos? I've never heard of those places. Right? These are big party islands in the Mediterranean. I'm at a STEM high school, 16 years old, doing math. And I'm seeing love from Mykonos, love from Ibiza. My song has somehow gone viral and being played in clubs in the Mediterranean at these big festivals by some random DJs. That's how people in the Mediterranean found out about my song. That was the first time I figured out, man, this internet thing is wild. They don't realize who I am. I'm just like a kid, 16, I can barely drive. I do matching for fun. Yet somehow there's this thing called Ibiza and Mykonos. My friends were like, what is this? What the hell is Mykonos? Right? And now my friends party in Mykonos. Back in the, what are you talking about? Right? But that's the beauty of the internet. That was the first moment. I was like, shit, man. If I write on LinkedIn, it can go out to the world. If I put stuff out there, it can go to the world, whether it's music or projects or sites or apps. Internet's a really cool place, and you have a chance to go, impact more people. Oh yeah, I'll do more data questions. And they're figuring out the raffle. Dude, software and data science, like they're related. Like I flip-flop between them. I did some data engineering, I did some software engineering, I did data science. At some point, like it literally doesn't even matter. Like in school, I'm sure you have to fill out some boxes like this is my major, this is what I'm doing, but in practice, really good data scientists, one way to stand out is to have really good C skills. And now with this whole ChatGPT revolution, one way to stand out as a Swede is, oh shit, you know math? Oh, you kind of understand what's happening here? Oh, you know what? We have a new ML initiative. I know you're just a software engineer, but we'll put you on. So I don't think it matters that much whether to switch from software engineering to data science. It's very easy as you go throughout it to start switching between data and data science suite. What you should just focus on is building cool shit, learning math, building models, putting up stuff. Whether that's data science or a suite for you, doesn't really matter. A lot of you suite people take ML class anyway.